With great power comes great responsibility, and with a great game comes, hopefully, a great sequel. Marvel's Spider-Man 2, a follow-up to 2018's Marvel's Spider-Man and 2020's Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, will be web-swinging its way to eager players very soon. Pairing up the two renditions of the wall crawler, this game will be dropping a bunch of new mechanics, villains, and locations into the webhead's world. Here's everything you need to know about Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and spoiler warning for the previous two releases. Spider-Man 2 is set 10 months after Miles Morales, which itself was set a year after the first game in the franchise. That original game pit Peter Parker, in his mid-20s, against his mentor-turned-villain Otto Octavius, aka Dr. Octopus, whose downfall began when the development funding for his mechanical arms project is pulled by Mayor Norman Osborn in order to force Octavius into working for Osborn's own business, Oscorp. Enraged by Osborn's actions and mentally manipulated by his mechanical arms, Octavius breaks into and unleashes upon New York City the occupants of the Raft, a maximum security prison which includes several members of Spidey's Rogues Gallery, including the recently incarcerated Martin Lee, aka Mr. Negative, another one of Peter's mentors that broke bad. Man, this Parker kid needs to start finding some better role models. Doc Ock's true goal is to secure the Devil's Breath, a deadly virus that was initially developed by Oscorp in an attempt to cure Osborn's son Harry, who had developed the terminal illness that claimed his mother's life. Along with the Raft escapees, Octavius unleashes the virus upon New York City, hoping to expose Osborn as the fraud he is. Peter faces off against his old mentor and is able to secure an antidote to the Devil's Breath. However, he faces a grave choice. The antidote can be used to cure the entire city, but it will take time to develop, and won't be ready in time to save Peter's Aunt May, herself dying from the virus. May helps stay Peter's hand from using the antidote on her, revealing that she knew all along he was Spider-Man and that she was proud of him before passing away. And it's a real goddamn tearjerker. During the course of the game, Peter's new friend, Miles Morales, gets bitten by a radioactive spider himself. Over the course of the next year, Peter trains Miles, leading into the events of Spider-Man Miles Morales. As Peter heads out of town with his girlfriend Mary Jane Watson, a new villain, the Tinkerer, shows up on the scene. It's revealed that the Tinkerer is Miles' childhood friend Finn, whose brother Rick worked for another shady corporation called Roxxon on an experimental energy source known as Nuform. Rick became sick from the development of Nuform and ultimately died in an explosion of the unstable substance when he and Finn broke into Roxxon to gain evidence of Nuform's numerous faults. It makes you sick and it explodes? A bad guy's fever dream. Ultimately, Finn plans to blow up a Nuform reactor to reveal its dangers to the world, without realizing that doing so would destroy most of Harlem. Miles shows up to stop her and succeeds in showing Finn the error of her ways. Finn flies the unstable reactor high above the city, saving Harlem but sacrificing herself in the process. 10 months after this tragic event is where Spider-Man 2 begins. Harry Osborn is back, and seemingly cured, which in the previous two games was teased to involve the infamous symbiote somehow. At some point in the game, Peter will acquire the symbiote, giving him not only his iconic black suit, but a cringe-inducing bad boy persona. I'm sorry, it just doesn't suit you people. Aided by the suit's new abilities, the two Spider-Men will be facing villains such as the Lizard and Kraven, who is in town to hunt down its various superpowered good guys and bad guys. If that wasn't bad enough, at some point, Peter will lose the symbiote to someone else, who then becomes Venom, a much bigger and much badder Spider-Man-like villain. We don't know who is underneath the gooey exterior of this character just yet, although it's been teased in several promos for the game that it's Harry. We do know, however, that Eddie Brock, the original Venom from the comics, is not the villain's secret identity. A big feature of Spider-Man 2 will be the black symbiote suit, which will bring a suite of new abilities to Peter's web-slinging persona. While the costume was initially planned during the first game's production as an unlockable for that title, conversations with Marvel led it to being axed and saved for a bigger story centered around it, which would evolve into this newest release. Development on Spider-Man 2 started while development on Spider-Man Miles Morales was in full swing, a different team tackling that slightly smaller experience. Since this game will feature the symbiote storyline, it has been described as a darker title, and The Empire Strikes Back to the first game's A New Hope. The first game saw the death of Miles' father Jefferson, Peter betrayed by not only one, but two of his mentors, and ended with the death of his aunt, so we'll have to wait and see how much more messed up things can get for the wall-crawling duo. In Spider-Man 2, you'll be playing as both Peter Parker and Miles Morales' renditions of the wall crawler. During missions, the game will be picking for you which Spidey you play when, but in the open world you'll be able to switch between the two at any time at lightning-fast speed thanks to the PS5's SSD. While both Spider-Men can web swing and wall crawl, the two define themselves by their differing additional abilities. Peter Parker has an arsenal of gadgets to draw from, while Miles Morales distinguishes himself with bioelectric powers, which are called Venom, which is just confusing. Because the Spideys share some elements, but are also distinct in places, each webhead is getting their own skill tree, and then we'll have a shared skill tree as well. A new element that distinguishes the old Spider-Man from the younger is the symbiote. With the symbiote bonded to him, Peter gains new and unique offensive abilities that combine his newfound aggression with slimy tentacles and painful takedowns. To make matters worse for those in Peter's crosshairs, he'll also be outfitted with mechanical arms, originally from the Iron Spider suit, which in the first game were an ultimate technique, but have been fleshed out into their own fully fledged mechanic in Spider-Man 2. Hopefully these mechanical arms don't start mind-controlling Peter like Doc Ock did. Spidey's dealing with a whole heap of mental manipulation due to the symbiote already. On the accessibility side, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 builds on Insomniac's work to make its games more accessible and approachable. One interesting feature will allow for gameplay to be slowed down in increments of 30, 50, and 70%, and regular speed can be resumed at any time. This will be useful for some players, as the speed of the game has been greatly increased thanks to the PS5's SSD architecture. While this game will be set in, you guessed it, New York City once again, the dual Spideys won't just be limited to the borough of Manhattan. They'll both get to explore their home boroughs of Queens and Brooklyn. As such, Insomniac claims that the game's map is twice the size of the previous titles. To help you get across the East River, which separates Manhattan from the two boroughs, as well as deal with the fact that Queens and Brooklyn aren't littered with skyscrapers, both Spider-Men have web wings, webbing connected to the sides of the Spidey's costumes that allows them to glide. In order to maximize speed and efficiency while moving through the city, the player will need to effectively combine web swinging with gliding. And for big boosts of acceleration, the Spider-Men can take advantage of wind tunnels to essentially fly through the city. Spider-Man 2 will release on October 20th for $70 exclusively on PlayStation 5. Pre-ordering the game will net players an early unlock of a suit for both Peter and Miles to wear, an early unlock of the new web grabber gadget, and 3 skill points to get a jumpstart on upgrading the Spidey pair. The Digital Deluxe Edition, which retails for $80, includes 10 suits, 5 for each Spider-Man. Players will also get 2 additional skill points and some bonuses for the game's photo mode. Finally, the Collector's Edition of the game includes all of the above, retails for $230, and includes a steelbook case and, in PlayStation's own words, 19 inches of Venom. Needless to say, this version is for the hardcore Spider-Man fans. And that's everything you need to know about Marvel's Spider-Man 2. For more on the game, including our review which drops on October 16th, stick to GameSpot.